What if one ordinary man had changed everything? Imagine a world where Hitler never rose to power beyond 1939. A single moment, a failed bomb in a Munich beer hall, could have changed the entire course of history. What if that bomb had gone off just a little sooner? What if Georg Elser had succeeded in killing Hitler? World War II, the Holocaust. Would any of that have happened? How would the world look today? Stay tuned, because this isn't just another what if. This could have rewritten history as we know it. When we think of attempts on Hitler's life, the infamous Valkyrie plot often comes to mind. But what many people don't know is that almost 5 years before, a man named Georg Elser came within minutes of changing history. He was a lone wolf, a carpenter, driven by a vision of preventing war and saving millions of lives. Elser made a plan to stop Hitler, alone. He didn't have secret agents or special equipment, just his own 2 hands, some tools, and a homemade bomb. And do you know what is the shocking part? He almost succeeded. So what happens if he pulls it off? That's what we're diving into. We will talk about the real events of that night, the theories about whether British intelligence was secretly behind it, and then we'll go deep into a world where Elser succeeds, and history takes a completely different turn. And we are sure that by the end of the video, you'll be questioning everything you thought you knew about World War II and how the world came to be what it is today. On the night of November 8th, 1939, in Munich, the Bürgerbräukeller beer hall buzzed with excitement. This wasn't just any ordinary night. It was the annual rally where Adolf Hitler celebrated his failed coup attempt in 1923. A moment he turned into a symbol of resilience and strength for the Nazi regime. Every year, he gathered his high-ranking officials in this iconic venue, using the occasion to deliver fiery speeches about Germany's destiny. But there was a different energy lurking in the shadows that night. Georg Elser, a humble carpenter, had been sneaking into the beer hall for weeks, carefully studying the layout and planning his move. This wasn't some reckless act. It was a meticulously crafted plan. Elser had spent countless nights after work carving a hole into one of the hall's support pillars. Inside that hole, he hid a homemade bomb, an explosive device crafted with his own hands. It took months of dedication and precision to show that he wasn't just an ordinary man. He was a man on a mission. Elser had been working on this plan for months, crafting the bomb with his own hands. This guy wasn't part of any secret underground network. He didn't have help from powerful allies. Now, let's get this straight. Elser wasn't part of any secret underground network. He didn't have a cadre of spies or powerful allies backing him up. No, it was just him. One solitary figure who believed that he could stop Hitler before he dragged the world into chaos. He saw the signs of the times, the escalating aggression, the whispers of war, and it filled him with a sense of urgency that most couldn't understand. Elser timed everything perfectly. He knew exactly when Hitler was scheduled to speak and set the bomb to detonate at 9:20 p.m., right when the Führer would be at the peak of his rhetoric. But fate has a strange way of intervening. That night, for reasons only he could understand, Hitler decided to cut his speech short. Instead of lingering like usual, he finished up 13 minutes early and walked out of the hall at 9:07 p.m., completely unaware that a deadly device was set to explode just moments later. At 9:20 p.m., the bomb detonated. The explosion was catastrophic. 8 lives were lost, and dozens more were injured. But the man who Elser aimed to kill, the very reason for his desperate act, was already long gone. In the chaos that followed, Elser was apprehended while trying to flee to Switzerland. When he confessed to the plot, few believed him. It was too unbelievable for many. How could a simple carpenter, armed with just his determination and skills, almost pull off an assassination of the most powerful man in Germany? The Nazis themselves suspected a bigger conspiracy at play. They were convinced there had to be more to the story, perhaps a hidden network of allies supporting Elser's bold attempt. Yet, through it all, Elser maintained his story. He acted alone, driven by the belief that he could stop the war that loomed over Europe. As the world would soon find out, the war he feared was just around the corner. a devastating conflict that would reshape nations and leave scars that lasted for generations. Georg Elser became a symbol of solitary defiance against tyranny, a man who dared to dream of a world free from Hitler's grasp. His act was not just about a bomb, it was a desperate cry for peace in an era filled with chaos and despair. And the question remained, what if he had succeeded? What if history had taken a different turn that night? Now, here's where the story took a twist that keeps people talking to this day. Some believe that Georg Elser wasn't acting alone, despite his insistence that he was. There's a theory that British intelligence, yes, MI6, might have had a hand in the whole thing. And it's not as far-fetched as it sounds. By 1939, Britain was already watching Hitler closely. They knew war was inevitable, and they were desperate to find ways to destabilize the Nazi regime. The theory goes that British intelligence might have spotted Elser, a man with anti-Nazi sentiments and the skills to build a bomb, and given him a nudge in the right direction. Some suggest MI6 could have provided him with the explosives, the know-how, and the resources to get the job done. After all, Elser wasn't just some random guy off the street. He knew how to build a bomb that could level an entire beer hall, and that's no small feat for someone without military training. Of course, there's no concrete proof to back this up. Elser never wavered from his story that he acted alone, but still, the questions remain. Could he have pulled off such an elaborate plot by himself? Or was there more going on behind the scenes than we'll ever know? Even the Nazis were suspicious. After the explosion, Hitler's regime immediately assumed this had to be part of a larger conspiracy. They even thought British intelligence might be involved. Hitler himself referred to Elser as a tool of foreign powers. But despite all the interrogations, the torture, and the attempts to link him to some larger group, nothing ever came out to confirm that theory. But let's entertain the possibility for a second. If British intelligence had helped Elser, and if the plan had succeeded, it would have been a game changer. Hitler dead, the Nazi leadership was in chaos, and World War II possibly stopped before it even really began. Just think about the ripple effects that could have had across the globe. Now, this is where things get fascinating. What if Elser had succeeded? What if Hitler had been killed on November 8th, 1939? Let's dive into this alternate history and explore the impact it could have had on the world as we know it. First off, the Nazi Party would have been thrown into absolute chaos. Hitler wasn't just the leader, he was the embodiment of their entire ideology. Without him, the party might have fractured. Göring, Himmler, Goebbels, these were powerful men, but they didn't have the same charisma or unifying force that Hitler had. A power struggle would have likely ensued, and it's possible the Nazi regime could have collapsed under its weight. And then there's World War II itself. Without Hitler's aggressive expansion plans, would the war have even unfolded the way it did? The invasion of Poland, the Blitzkrieg across Europe, the bombings of London, these were all Hitler's brainchildren. Without him, maybe there would have been room for negotiations. Maybe the conflict would have been contained, or maybe it could have been avoided entirely. It's not a stretch to imagine that Europe might have found a way to stop the Nazis before things spiraled out of control. But what about the Holocaust? Hitler was the architect of the final solution, the systematic extermination of millions of Jews and other minorities. Without him pushing that agenda, it's possible that the Holocaust, at least on the scale we know it, might never have happened. The anti-Semitic sentiments in Germany were certainly there, but Hitler was the one who turned those feelings into a genocide. If he had been killed in 1939, millions of lives might have been saved. However, history is never that simple. Even without Hitler, the Nazi ideology was deeply ingrained in Germany at that time. It's possible that another leader, maybe Himmler or Goebbels, could have stepped up and continued the war effort, possibly even with more ruthless precision. And without Hitler's unpredictable nature, the Nazis might have been more strategic, which could have made them even harder to defeat. Then, there's the broader geopolitical picture. Without Hitler, how would the Soviet Union have responded? Stalin might have taken advantage of the chaos in Germany to expand Soviet influence even further into Europe. And what about the United States? Would America have stayed out of the war if Hitler wasn't around to push things to the brink? Maybe the US would have remained isolated, focusing on its economy and avoiding the conflict altogether. If that had happened, the post-war world would look entirely different. The US might not have emerged as a global superpower, and the Cold War could have played out in a completely different way. If Georg Elser's bomb had gone off 13 minutes earlier, we could be living in a very different world. No Hitler, no World War II as we know it, no Holocaust, and a completely different balance of power in Europe and beyond. Or maybe things would have taken an even darker turn, with new power struggles and conflicts arising in the vacuum left by Hitler's death. Either way, history came shockingly close to being rewritten by one man's courage. It's wild to think how just 13 minutes could have changed the entire world. Georg Elser was so close to altering the course of history forever. If his bomb had gone off a little earlier, everything from World War II to the Holocaust might not have unfolded as we know it. But now, we want to hear from you. What do you think would have happened if Elser's plan had succeeded? Would the Nazi regime have collapsed? Or would another leader have taken Hitler's place? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this video interesting, make sure to give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on more mind-blowing historical what-ifs. And of course, don't forget to share this video with your friends who love watching history. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.